Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon and Alex Lord. The Falcons are coming off another, just frankly, absolutely terrible loss. Arthur Smith comes out yesterday and says Desmond Ridder is still the guy. He is, he's attaching, like, they're going to go down with the ship. Like, that's what it looks like. They're going to go down with the ship. I don't know how much longer this can last because I think we've all seen Desmond Ridder is clearly not the guy. I mean, there's no anticipation. There's no accuracy. The decision-making's terrible. And I don't know if it's a mix of if it's just Arthur Smith, if it's just Desmond Ridder, if it's a combination or both. But it looks like they are married to each other. And Arthur Smith made that decision, and Terry Fontenot made that decision this offseason when they hitched their wagon to him. And I think they both could go down with the ship if this thing continues to go awfully wrong. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts about it because I am turning on Arthur Smith fast. I'm starting to think things are getting stupider and stupider. I want to know why Desmond Ridder wasn't used last year. He wasn't used last year until the final 4 weeks. And then I want to know why Desmond Ridder was getting like Aaron Rodgers treatment in the preseason and gets one drive the entire preseason. And this guy's the worst quarterback in the league. Like, if he had gotten Patrick preseason, it might have done us all a favor. It might have done us all a favor. Now, that's kind of rude, but it really might have. So why is he getting Aaron Rodgers treatment in the preseason? I need answers from Arthur Smith. I need answers.
Patrick Mahomes played more drives in the preseason than Desmond Ridder.
Or Aaron Rodgers played more. Like, what are we doing?
Here's my thing that's really frustrating to me is this is what I've said multiple times. Is like, okay, you look at what Ryan Nielsen has done with his defense, by the way, and this is one of the best defensive units in the league. I think Ryan.
Make him head coach.
I think he should be the head coach. Let's look.
Do the Kyle Shanahan thing, like what we should have done with Dan Quinn and Kyle.
You took the words out of my mouth. Let's go ahead and do this. But seriously, in all seriousness, I was already a little apprehensive about bringing this guy over from the Titans. And offense where quite literally there's like, quarterback doesn't matter, which I just firmly don't believe in. It's hard to get a good quarterback in this league too. But the problem is, like I said, it goes back to last year. You gave Marcus Mariota 13 starts. We could have made an alternate provisions at this point. Some type of secondary plan so that we're not relying on this guy. And they do have Taylor Heineke. I've said this about Taylor Heineke before, is I don't think he's some long-term Super Bowl quarterback. But the fact of the matter is he went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady in a playoff game and almost won. Like, the guy can play. He can play in the league. Like, he's not bad. He's probably the 18th to 20th best quarterback in the league. And that's a lot more palatable than probably the worst. And I think even the 18th to 20th best quarterback in the league can probably get you to the playoffs with this roster. But I don't know, man. It's clear that they're just going to be stubborn about this. It's just frustrating to me. Anybody with a pair of eyes can see what's going on here, but whatever.
I think the things you guys said aren't wrong, but they're not rooted in reality. The fact of the matter is we're going to have to see it through with Desmond Ridder, which probably entails a lot more suffering, a lot more of this, a lot more complaining. They made this bed, and now they have to kind of lay in it because, like you guys said, they wasted time last year with Marcus Mariota. If we're being, they should have just thrown him into the fire last year. And I know, there's proof that, sitting guys, young quarterbacks, benefits them in the long run. This is a third-round pick. We didn't really have the time. We don't have the luxury of figuring out, if this is the guy or not. Let's see it right now. But now, this is the guy. They gave Marcus Mariota 13 games. You're thinking you're going to give a third round, essentially a rookie. This is still his first season in terms of games. Less time? I don't see that happening just from what Arthur Smith has done in the past. And, is it Arthur Smith? Is it Desmond Ridder? Is Arthur Smith kind of dumbing down the offense because he doesn't think Ridder's capable? Or is this who Arthur Smith is? Because his passing concepts, I've said it multiple times, they don't have a rhyme or reason. In Tennessee, they gave it to Derrick Henry, and they had a lot of play action pass, shot plays, explosive plays. We don't even throw it down the field. We rarely throw it down the field. And when we do, generally speaking, it's kind of a 50-50 throw it up to one of our big guys' balls, which is, I guess fine, but it's not something you can rely on constantly. There's a lot of things wrong with the offense. Last week, it was the offensive line, or 2 weeks ago, in Detroit. The primary catalyst of the offensive shortcomings was the offensive line. This week, it seemed like it was Desmond Ridder. So next week, is it going to be Arthur Smith? Is it going to be the offensive line? Ridder? A combination of all three? There's a lot to complain about, but firing Arthur Smith and benching Desmond Ridder is just not on the table. for me, it's not my call to make, but like the reality of the situation is those guys' jobs are secure for right now.
Well, clearly they're coaching and constructing this roster like it. They clearly feel that way because they're not making any decisions that would indicate that they aren't.
I think my biggest concerns with the Falcons are not the fact that they're 2-2, not the fact that they got blown out by two teams that are probably going to make the playoffs away from home. That's pretty much what we expected. My concerns are Desmond Ridder is clearly not the guy. And we can go through this for 13 more weeks and we can have these conversations for 13 more weeks. I know where this ends. It ends with nothing. This guy is going to not be on the roster. He might be on the roster. He's not going to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons this year. And my biggest problem with this, and this goes from Arthur Smith to Terry Fontenot and just the way they've approached this entire situation, is they hung on to Matt Ryan. They hung on to Marcus Mariota. Why was Marcus Mariota even here? Why was he here? What was even the point of having Marcus Mariota even on this roster starting 13 games at any point? We should have been trying to get a quarterback in this building. They just wasted a year. They completely wasted an entire year. And now we're sitting here in year 3, and I have questions whether we have the right coach or the right quarterback in the building. Well, I know we don't have the right quarterback, but now I have questions about the right coach. And these are things that are going to take several years to fix, because if Arthur Smith's not the right coach, we're going to have to fire him, and he's probably not going to get fired after this year. So now I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, when am I ever going to enjoy watching this team? 5 years down the road? Jesus. It's like, that's what concerns me. I'm not concerned. I expected 2-2. I expected to lose to the Jags. I expected to probably lose to the Lions before the season started. What concerns me is we have only invested a 3rd-round pick in 3 years where we needed a quarterback, and he's only on his 8th start.
Well, listen, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because of the fact they're trying to build up the roster so that the roster is playoff ready for a guy to just come slide in. You know, it could be a veteran. It could be, go and trending up for a rookie. That's the most valuable thing in this sport, a good quarterback on a rookie contract. The problem with all of that approach is the fact you're not even using your guys that you did surround this quarterback with. Kyle Pitts and Drake London are nowhere to be seen. Our top yards per route run is like Jonnu Smith, Mac Hollins, Bijan Robinson, and Kaderil Hodge. Are you kidding me? That is pathetic. That's one of the biggest problems is you can do this. You can, try and surround a bad quarterback with a ton of great talent and hope it works out. If it doesn't work out, go get your guy next offseason. No problem with that. Except for the fact is we're not even using the guys that we went out and spent 2 top 10 picks on. That's a huge problem.
What annoys me
those guys good?
Just the cavalier
like, are we missing something? I sometimes wonder, I'm like, maybe we're just overrating Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and like they just can't get open, and because they never seem to be open. I can't imagine that we're not calling plays for them.
Now, what's annoying to me too is just like the whole cavalier attitude. Like every time it's a press conference, he's just up there being so sassy. Like, oh, we don't care about fantasy football. Well, It looks like you don't care about real life football either, because we're not good. Like it's just.
Everything the Falcons do, whether it's Arthur Smith at the podium, to your point, whether it's not utilizing Kyle Pitts or Drake London, whether it's this, shoddy offense in general, Desmond Ridder, offensive line, Arthur Smith play calling, none of it, can really matter if you're winning games. All of this didn't really matter. Everybody after 2 games is like, oh, this, the offense doesn't look great. Defense looks really good. The offense doesn't look that great, but we're winning games. It's okay. Wait and see. 2 losses in a row. Now the sky is falling. And this was what's going to happen. And what the worst thing that could happen is that this attitude that we have, this, terrible what's going on with this organization, bleeds into the locker room. When Drake London and Kyle Pitts and these veterans start to look around and be like, we can't win with this guy. Or they start worse questioning the head coach. It would be one thing if they're like, Ritter's not our guy. And that's fine. We'll move on. That's, 3rd round pick, rip the Band-Aid off. But if they start questioning Arthur Smith and the leadership of this team, I mean, we're in big, big trouble. Big trouble.
I don't know why.
And you've seen people do that with guys that were number 2 overall picks in New York with Zach Wilson. We've seen the team have turmoil within the locker room, and they were starting a number 2 overall pick, a guy that they had a lot of investment in. If they're going to keep hanging on to this 3rd round pick, which it really shouldn't be that hard to cut bait and just say, you know what, this guy's not it. Let's see what we can roll with Heineke. We can give him one more. Listen, I didn't come into the season thinking he would only get 5 or 6 starts. I also didn't come into the season he would look so poor.
to your point, there has been, I don't want to say none, little to no improvement from Desmond Ridder, dating back to the 4 games last year and through 4 games this year. That's an 8-game sample size. There has been little to no improvement. And that's the most concerning thing to me. The most concerning thing with all of this is Ridder's still making terrible judgment plays. Terrible. No anticipation. He's shown no control of the offense. He doesn't look like he's understanding what defenses are trying to do to him. He looks shaky in the pocket. Maybe the offensive line's poor start to the season is, due to that, but no improvement to me. Little to no improvement from Desmond Ridder is the most concerning thing about all of this. And like we said it this offseason, the only way I see Taylor Heineke getting the call off the bench is if Ridder shows no improvement throughout, half the season or per se half the season, 10 games. And it looks, if we're continuing this trajectory, I mean, we could be sitting here after 4 more games and banging our heads against a wall that we're winning, if we're winning, in spite of Ridder.
We play the Houston Texans on Saturday, and I promise you it's not going to be pretty. I think the Texans are a lot better than people expected coming into this year, but the fact of the matter is they got a first-year head coach and a rookie quarterback, and if they come into Atlanta and beat us, it's just that there's going to be a lot of questions that need answered.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say is, I mean, at least there's some Falcons fans that were pounding their fists for Ridder that I think almost deserve to watch this every Sunday, because they were in my mentions like, oh my God, you don't believe in Desmond Ridder. It's like, I don't even not believe in him. He just hasn't done anything yet. Yeah. You deserve this. You deserve this because you were standing him so hard this offseason. This is what you got. Coming up after the break, Arthur Smith talks about Kyle Pitts not being 100% healthy.